Hey y'all, it's Crystal Deal here from 5D Ranch Crafts, and I have a Christmas craft for you from the Family Dollar. I got this sign from Family Dollar, and I don't care for all of the glitter, so first I'm going to take some sandpaper I got from the Dollar Tree and sand off the glitter. Here I've decided to take the Christmas tree apart and save the ribbon for another project, just because it was easier to sand each piece separately, and I wasn't going to use the ribbon to put the tree back together anyway. Now that I have all of my pieces sanded, I am going to take a baby wipe and wipe each piece down to wipe off all of the excess glitter to make sure that I have a clean surface for when I go to paint each piece. Okay, so I've laid down a piece of paper so I can have a surface to paint on. I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster, and I'm going to paint 2 coats of paint on each piece to give it a nice covering, so that way the red and green and white don't show through and you can't see the glitter. I am going to be covering this with some scrapbook paper, but even though I'm going to cover it with scrapbook paper, I still want to make sure that you're not going to be able to see those bright colors through the scrapbook paper. And so here I'm putting on the first coat of paint, and I am going to go ahead and fast forward through all of this painting stuff so that way you guys don't have to watch me paint. So I'm going to use my Wagner heat gun to dry each layer of paint on the first setting. So here you go. This is how I dry each layer of paint with my Wagner heat gun, and I got it at Lowe's for about 20 bucks. Here I am getting ready to dry the second coat with my Wagner heat gun on the first setting. Now I'm going to take the basket or the gift box that goes at the bottom of the tree, and I'm going to take my T-square or my L, whatever you want to call it. I'm not really sure. It's just this little ruler thing I got from Dollar Tree. It's great for making straight lines. And mark across the top of that bow where the bow kind of peeks out at the top, just because I'm not going to keep the bow and you're not going to see the front of this. And so I'm going to cut those little loops off with one of my Dollar Tree craft knives. Actually, you'll be able to see that I start with the Dollar Tree craft knife and decide to just try a pair of scissors. And guess what? The scissors work amazing. Now I'm going to take a couple coats of paint and paint the gift box white, just so that way when I put my craft sticks over the top of it to make my rustic basket for my tree, you won't be able to see all of that glitter and stuff, kind of like I did for the rest of the tree. Take your craft sticks and lay them out over your basket just to kind of see how many you're going to need. And then cut each craft stick down, measure and cut each craft stick down as you need it. And you can see how I do that here. Also, just a quick disclaimer, do not use your good scissors to cut these craft sticks because it will tear your scissors up. And so if you're using good scissors, I would not recommend you using your favorite scissors to cut the craft sticks. Use a junky pair of scissors or a pair of scissors that you're okay with getting ruined. You can see that I first cut the round part off of each of my craft sticks that I'm going to use for my basket. And then I take one craft stick and I measure it, and then I cut it down, and then for each and every other craft stick is where that one craft stick that I cut down is how I will measure each and every other craft stick. Here I have some Hobby Lobby checked paper, but I decide that I don't want to use it. It only costs 25 cents, but I decide that that's not the look I'm going for. So I look in my paper stash and I find this weathered gray wood paper, and my house is in a farmhouse rustic decor, so I just think this would be perfect for the theme that I have going. So now I'm going to trace and cut each piece on my piece of paper, and then I will Mod Podge each piece of paper to the front of each part of the tree. While my Mod Podge is drying, I'm going to take a little bit of my brown stain or my brown paint, and then I'm just going to spray a little bit of water in it and water it down a bit so I can make a stain and stain my basket for my rustic Christmas tree while the Mod Podge on my tree dries. Here I'm taking a Dollar Tree garland tie and just turning it into a wreath for the front of my tree box. And then I'm going to take some of Dollar Tree's white garland and take off a few of the little white beads and glue them onto my wreath. And then I'm going to take a piece of random ribbon that I kind of have laying around and tie a bow and put it on there also. Now I'm going to take a piece of Dollar Tree sandpaper and just sand the edges of my tree pieces so that way I can just get that clean line. And here I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to the end of this and show you how I'm putting the tree together with my popsicle sticks. I don't feel like you need to see me sanding all of these pieces down. It does take a little bit, but it just gives it such a pretty effect. Now that our pieces are all sanded, I'm going to paint my star, and I want my star to look like a rustic tin star. So I've got this metallic paint that I picked up at Hobby Lobby while it was on sale, and I'm just going to put some of it on the star, and I'm just going to take a paintbrush and just kind of dab it on there and splotch it on there everywhere, and then I'm going to take my heat gun and dry it, and then after that I'm going to put a layer of Mod Podge on the top of it to seal that paint. And then I'm going to take some of that brown paint that I used for the basket that we made. And I'm going to turn the star, kind of make it look a little bit rusty and rustic. And using that layer of Mod Podge just allows that second layer of paint to go on, and if you get too much paint, that allows you to take some of that extra paint that you may have gotten extra too much on off. Okay, so now I'm going to take my craft sticks that I had left, the pieces that I had left from my basket, and I'm going to use those to connect each of the pieces of tree. And I wanted the spaces to be even, so here I tried using a ribbon container, and that's just a bit too wide, I think, and so I decided to use a piece of the popsicle stick or craft stick in this case, and it actually works out great. It makes it perfect. It gives me just the right amount of space, and then I just hot glue each of the pieces down as I go. And here I decide that I do not like the craft sticks being the natural wood color, so I decide to take some of that brown stain that we made earlier, or that we watered down, and just paint those the same color as the basket. And I think it just makes it look perfectly great. And then after looking at it a minute, I feel like it's missing something. And so I pick it up and I decide that it's time to go ahead and clean up my mess. So I start cleaning up my mess, and then decide that it's missing something, and I use some of the Dollar Tree berry garland to wrap around it, and it just gives it that little bit of something that it needed to bring it to life.